I too feel very uncomfortable sometimes. And, you push through it and you post anyway. And a lot of the time you're surprised by how well you are received. And you gotta just keep putting content out there. And I promise you will be so surprised at what a wonderful response you receive.
Welcome to In the Blue Zone, the real estate marketing podcast where difference makers and influencers from around Coldwell Banker discuss how to enjoy success, find inspiration, earn more money, and have fun building a business.
All right, welcome everybody. We are here with Shaina Levin, Coldwell Banker agent with the Old City office in downtown Philadelphia. One of my favorite offices, has probably the best view of any real estate office I've ever been in my career. Shaina, happy to have you on board with us.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here. I love this. I love that you're doing it. And thank you for choosing me to be a part of it.
Welcome to the Blue Zone.
Welcome to the Blue Zone.
Blue Zone. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Shaina. Tell us about your background.
Well, I am born and raised in Philadelphia, not too far from our Old City office, actually. I've lived here the majority of my life in Philadelphia, but I did take a sabbatical. During college, I was in Boston, and then right after Boston, I lived in Europe for about 5 years. And when it was time to get real and settle down and figure out where I wanted to be, it was kind of a no-brainer for me. I know Philly. I have the relationships there, the familiarity. So I moved back here and shortly after got my real estate license, and a couple more things happened and now we're here.
That's awesome. Wait, where in Europe were you about?
I was in Spain for the first half, Barcelona, but mostly Madrid. And then I moved to Austria, specifically Vienna, where I also got a master's and traveled around a bit.
Wow. That is so cool.
Thank you. It was fun.
So can you speak Spanish then?
I was going to respond in German. Yes, a little bit, but I am so out of practice. So if you speak a little, maybe one day we can do a little intercambio language exchange.
One
of my secret pleasures is I watch polyglot videos on YouTube every now and then. And some of those, and there's a guy named Walter Coderwaller. He's in Amsterdam, and he just walks on the street with a shirt saying, "If I don't speak your language, I'll buy you a free coffee." It's pretty cool videos on YouTube. But anyway,
I'd be broke.
Hashtag jealous. All right, so we have a format we like to follow here, and to get to know you and to talk turkey here. And the first thing is something old. Then we're going to get something new, something barred, and something blue, right? So what's the something old that you could tell us about?
So 2 things come to mind. First, the obvious social media. I'm a big social media advocate. I've always been on it. When even Facebook first came to be, I kind of rolled my eyes and thought this will come and go, no need to learn it. But shortly after, I realized it's going to stick around, just like all the social media platforms. And I became obsessed with it. And it took up a lot of my time. And then when Instagram came along, same thing. TikTok came, and now I probably spend a disgusting amount of my day on social media. And I get that little reminder every Sunday afternoon from my Apple iPhone that, my weekly average per day on screen time is like 6 hours. Yeah. And I'm not proud of it, but, it is a reality. And I do enjoy it. And I have to say I learn a lot from social. And I mean that. I'll touch upon that later. And the other thing is I've always been into theater, into acting. When I was younger, I was always in the plays. And I find that that's really helped me as a realtor, because sometimes we find ourselves in some funky situations and, for lack of a better word, sometimes I have to kind of detach and dissociate a little bit. If you get nervous, you go on like a really big listing presentation, or, you're just in a new depth, something you're not familiar with. I kind of tap into that former theatrical persona and say, you know what, I can do this. And if I have to pretend I'm not me right now to get through it, then so be it. So those two things have both really come into play for me as a realtor.
That's awesome. That's cool. I like that. Cause kind of slip into your little acting and play and make believe almost world to make it work.
Yeah, and it helps in like life too. Not, you don't have to be a realtor. You can be in any profession, or just, at the supermarket, someone comes up to you, says something funky, and you don't really know how to respond. Just kind of detach for a moment, and you can handle it. And sometimes just playing around a little bit with the thoughts in your head and saying it's not me, it's this character, makes it a little easier to kind of swallow and get through.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool. So on something new, you're gonna be hitting the stage, right? New theater, no tour. Something new. What are the things that you're working on now? Like, what are what are some of the things that looking forward to or dropping from the past? Try something different.
Well, something new is, lead generation by way of social media. I never really thought, sure, I hear it. You scroll on Instagram for 5 minutes and you hear somebody who is an entrepreneur, who is self-employed, and they talk about how, Instagram or social media is their main source of leads and business. And I hear that, but it previously was one of those things that I thought, okay, it's not for me though. It works for them, but I don't really see how I can break into that. And then, in the last 6 months or so, I got creative with what I was doing on social media. Originally I was just doing house tours, so I wasn't in front. I wasn't camera facing. I was behind it, and you could hear my voice. And that voice-driven narration overlapped with the views of beautiful or eye-catching rooms and landscapes and such. People liked it. And then I took it to the next level on Instagram, and I tried to do a reel challenge. So Instagram, to try to keep up with TikTok, implemented their reels.
Right.
And, this is really fun because everything is based on trends. Same on TikTok, but on Instagram, I started presenting myself. Haven't done it on TikTok yet. That's next. Okay, that's something I'm working on. We'll talk about that. But on Instagram, I found that the response was really positive. And, you had mentioned earlier, I think before we, started talking publicly, that, some people, there's a bit of discomfort. And I talked a lot about this in Old City at last week's presentation on social media. I too feel very uncomfortable sometimes. And, you push through it and you post anyway. And, a lot of the time you're surprised by how well you are received. And, a lot of the times we're our own worst critic. And you gotta just keep putting content out there. And I promise you will be so surprised at what a wonderful response you receive when you do it. And I am beginning to experience that. So that is really something new for me, how it's relating directly to my business and getting me deals and starting wonderful conversations. And honestly, it led us to this podcast recording today and to this presentation last week where I met you, Madison. That's a direct result of me trying something new, putting my face out there and myself when it really did feel uncomfortable initially and still does at times. But it leads to amazing things. And they say nothing happens at home, right? Well, now something can happen at home because we're recording and you can always put your stuff out there. And it's an amazing tool, really.
That's a great point.
So go ahead, Madison.
Yeah, so I was thinking when we had met last week, and you were talking about, how you were a little nervous at first to be on camera, or even adjust your voice at first. And I remember the first thought in my head was, oh my goodness, I could never even fathom having my voice like in a 60-second video for the whole world to see. I would just be cringing the whole time. But you're so right. It's so brave, and we really are our own worst critics. And putting it out there, like, you really just open yourself up to so many opportunities. So that's really awesome. I'm glad you said that.
I really liked one of the things that's really just stuck with me, what you said, because I do talk to a lot of agents about this, and getting behind the camera first and getting comfortable with that. And I mean, it's a great place to start, but you had to push yourself, you said, to do that. And then you had to push yourself to take the next step to get behind in front of the camera. And what I hear you saying is that you continually have to push yourself. It isn't something that just even though you have an acting career, it's still not something that comes naturally to want to put yourself out there like that. And I think a lot of agents feel that way. They don't want the camera on them. They don't want the focus on them. They want it focused on their clients or something else. But you have to, in this business, you have to push yourself through it. And it's really great to hear someone like you who, has a lot of experience and depth in social media saying you had to start somewhere and then push yourself through that.
Yeah, and she's still pushing. Doesn't mean that she's like just okay with everything now. She's still, I'm sure before every video you're like, "Ooh, okay," and 1, 2, 3, deep breath.
Absolutely. Like, I had nerves going last week before, getting in front of the different branch offices that were present. But one of the things that I led with last week was, you don't have to be comfortable to post, but you have to post to be comfortable. And it's not like you're going to get to some point where, oh, I've arrived. I'll never feel nerves or anxiety or self-conscious insecurity again. It comes and goes, but I think of it as like volume, and where the volume was once turned up all the way on that anxiety that was coming before I'd have to turn the camera on. It's quieter now, and every time it gets a little quieter, and it's repetition.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I have a YouTube channel. It's still out there. That when I was an agent, I had a challenge. I was at Triple Play, which was my favorite convention. It's in Atlantic City. I was there when I had a coach that I was meeting with at that point, and he said, "Jeff, you're doing a lot of good stuff, but you're not doing video." This is like 2010. Okay, so this is dating me. And he's like, "You should try video." This is before a lot of the 1080p cameras and 4K and all that stuff. And I had a flip camera. If you guys remember flip cameras, that's what I had. Okay, and so there's a guy in Canada who was doing videos in his car with some kind of camera on his dash, great audio environment. And so I started doing that. I challenged myself to do 100 episodes in 100 days.
Wow.
And I did from beginning of middle of January to the middle of April. And you can go see them. They're still on there. They're numbered and everything. But I did them all. And it got me. The thing was, I was not excited about being on camera for 100 days straight. But the funny thing is, by the time I got to the end of that, I didn't feel much more comfortable, to be honest. I still felt like it was like weird and awkward, and it was a non-normal behavior for me. But the difference was I decided to do it, and then and the funny thing was, people say, "Oh, did you get a lot of leads?" And I'm like, "Not really," because back then it was tougher. I said, "But what happened was I would be in Home Depot 4 or 5 times. I'd be somewhere in public, and people would walk up to me and say, Are you a real estate agent?" Like literally out of the blue, and I'd be like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Oh, I saw your YouTube channel." And this is before YouTube channel and all the vlog thing hit. So It was, for me, it was that. Today it's kind of like this, Reels concept, and the all the different, that I call it the vertical orientation world we live in now. That is, the new thing. So I really resonate with that. I think I kind of call it the idea of traveling from being a consumer to being an influencer. It's a journey, and you start as a consumer, and you don't even know how to consume social media. And then you figure that out a little bit, and you kind of get your lanes. And then after a while, you realize that, like, you're coming to epiphany. I can influence this thing in my in my own network, not the whole world. I'm not Gary V or something necessarily, but hey, I could be one day, but I can influence my network, the people that in my neighborhood, my circle, by just getting in front of the camera, like metaphorically speaking.
I think that's a really good way. I think that's a really great way to look at it too, because as we so often do as people, sometimes we, look at like the whole mountain rather than like just the step that's ahead of us, and it feels really overwhelming. But if you don't have to have 1 million followers or even 10,000 followers. If you find a way to speak to and resonate with whoever you are connected with, that would be a huge win. If you can get in front of 50 people and really kind of, present yourself as, when you think of real estate, think of me, and just constantly be coming up in their news feed, showing houses, giving first-time home buyer tips, talking about why it's so important to use a local lender. Well, when they think to move, to buy, to even rent, they will think of you. And that to me is a huge win. And I'm starting to see that happen in my own sphere, which again, I hadn't really believed would occur previously.
Can you get more specific on that for the listeners? Like, what does that mean exactly?
Well, most recently, I had a friend of a friend. So, this wasn't somebody directly in my sphere, but, we're connected on social media. We've only hung out maybe once or twice in person, and that was years ago. But, the funny thing is with social media, you don't have to see somebody for a long time to feel like you know what's going on in their lives, to feel like, comfortable to just kind of slide into their DMs and say, hey, how are you, or what's up, or I saw you went to that event last week. How was it? It really breaks these barriers. And she reached out to me and said, hey, I'm thinking of moving to Philly and I see your videos all the time. And could you help me find a home? And she's one of a handful of people in the last 6 months who, have kind of followed a similar theme. And again, this is somebody like with my immediate friends, I hope they would think of me when they think of real estate. But, it really shows me the power of social media when these people who I am peripherally or tangentially related to, connected with, when they are reaching out to me and saying, because of your videos, that is why I am seeking your help as a professional realtor.
That's a great point. And I like how you said, it's not just the posting of the content on social media, but it's also the engagement that you have with the people who are following you, with the people who are engaging with your content. And that is a super important part of the whole thing as well. Yeah. For some people who may be, interested in listening to this for social media tips or inspiration, how would you best give advice or talk about what you do when it comes to deciding what content to post? And are there some days you're like, I have no idea what to post. I have no ideas at all.
So when I feel I have no idea, I just go onto Instagram or to TikTok. It's very simple. I would give this advice to anybody who feels they don't know where to start. Go onto Instagram, take 5 minutes. You don't have to spend half a day doing this. 5 minutes, go to your Reels section and just mindlessly scroll through. It's what you're doing anyway. But this time do it through the lens of, I am looking for inspiration and what are other people posting? What's amassing the most number of views? What music is trending? What's playing in the background? Is there text overlap? And just a little tip, there should be text, because a lot of people are mindlessly scrolling at work and they have to be quiet while they are procrastinating. So you need to overlay some caption so that if they are not listening to you, you're just going to appear in a room and you could be talking about, selling white gloves, and it has nothing to do with, what service you can actually provide to them. So you make sure that you put captions on there. And that's something that, over time, as a result of scrolling through all these reels, I learned and applied. Previously, I was just, showing homes and cut the sound on that. And it's just, okay, this is a bedroom. This is a living room. Am I an interior designer? Am I a staging company? You have to add the caption and really in the first second, make it known what you're doing and what you can do for others. So if you ever are at a loss for, where to start or what content to provide to others, just go and see what other people are doing, because everything on Instagram and TikTok is based on trends. Everybody takes the same trends, the same formats and structures, and they just replace, someone else's words with their service. So one person's selling like essential oils, and here are the 3 benefits. Well, okay, I'm not selling essential oils, I'm selling houses, and here are the 3 benefits and advantages of using a realtor.
That's a great point. And that almost kind of leads into our something borrowed section, which we can talk about. But real quick, I have one. I at least have one last question, or at least for this section. I don't know if Betsy and Jeff have more, but when we met last time, you had mentioned something about how you kind of came to this almost epiphany, how it's not really technically about how many followers you have. It's more about, the engagement. And so I would love to hear kind of you talk about that as well.
Absolutely. So when I was first asked to, speak at this social media workshop, I honestly felt like a little bit of a fraud because I don't have millions of followers on Instagram. I have even less on Instagram than I do on TikTok. On TikTok, I have like 5,000. On Instagram, I have under 1,000. So I'm like, I mean, yeah, some of my videos, have caught on. Like people often come up to me and say, I like this, or how'd you do that? But, in the grand scheme of influencers and people who are really capitalizing off social media, my follow count really pales in comparison. So I thought about it, and what I ultimately realized, which I really do believe is true, is it's no good to you to just keep amassing followers. Say you have 100,000 followers, but none of that is turning into business for you. And that's at least what I want, right? I want to provide value to others by way of, getting them into a new home, selling their current home. So I'd rather have 5,000 followers and get, 5 strong leads for business that translate into an actual closed sale than have 150,000 followers and I'm just getting views on my videos, but nobody is coming to me for realtor professional advice or asking me to help navigate their affairs. And that's the other thing, the views. So a couple of my videos have received like 250,000 views. And one of the things that I've noticed, I'm always looking through social media and seeing, what's working that they're doing, what's not working that they're doing. And on some of these accounts where they have 1 million followers, the highest number of views that they've gotten on certain videos is like 16 or 20,000. Mm-hmm. And then I look at my page and I only have 5,000, amazing, but small number of followers. But some of my videos have gotten 250,000 and then consistently 70,000, 80,000. And those are all eyeballs on me and ears on my voice and my words that I sell real estate. And I'm actually ultimately hitting more people than you would think at first glance when you just see, okay, how many people actively follow this person.
Yeah, that's great. Do you think that's attributable to the fact that you also DM people and you engage them and you engage in relationships? You're not just speaking at people, and
yes.
but you're actually engaging with them?
Yes, totally. So another thing that I guess is new for me that I'm trying to implement is my engagement. So people will comment and, they'll say things like, oh my God, I would do anything to live here, or God, that primary bedroom is goals. And, in the past, I'd probably just like the comment to, let the person know, okay, I see you, but just that's all I did. And now I'm actively making a point to comment back and say, I know, right? Like, can you believe the way that they designed it to really maximize the space? And it gives me ideas for, even in a rental, how you can kind of create this same look. And here, click this link to Amazon. And this is a cheap dupe, like a way to do it, for less money, but to achieve the same look.
That's such a good idea. That's really such a good idea. I love
that.
I
do think a lot of times we get lost in putting content out, but you're talking about putting that content out and helping people engage with it more. And I'm sure that the comments and the engagements and then them coming back and responding back to you, all of those things extend the lifeline of your post as well.
Absolutely.
So I have a question on content to follow up on Madison's. So what are your thoughts on the perspective about content, of sharing content about yourself? So some people I talk to say that you should talk about your services and stuff and stay down that business track, which I'm hearing some of that here, right? But then there's also people I talked to. Just yesterday, I talked to an agent who's all about sharing her family pictures and herself, and she's pictures of her family taken, and just sharing her soul, bearing her soul, like she's into like that, and she's been getting a lot of positive. Another person doing well on social in her corner, she's getting responses to that from people, and they're not real estate related. It's more like, I think you're a great person, kind of responses.
Yeah.
And so, what are your thoughts on the different angles, content wise? Do you incorporate both, or do you like one or the other, or what do you think about that?
So that is a huge part of all of it. You have to present yourself. You have to show, what we would call lifestyle images or clips. You have to differentiate yourself. If you go and scroll on Instagram for 5 minutes, 90 out of 200 reels might be realtors, right? Trying to get you to use them to help you into your next home. You have to, the only way to really connect with these people, to be relatable, is to distinguish yourself. And that means get a little vulnerable, or, share a personal story, or maybe you had a crazy hectic morning. And so this is interesting. Someone reached out to me on TikTok and asked me to, try their face mask and post it on TikTok and my review. And what I'm going to do is, turn it into a real estate thing. If it's a product that I am behind, number one, because I'm very, very particular about things that I would promote. But I'm going to turn it into a real estate thing, like, oh my God, I just got in from an exhausting day of showings. Let's do a face mask. And, it just kind of helps to humanize you a little bit. And, last week when I was giving this presentation, and I was nervous before, I, for the first time, discussed those nerves. And normally I just pretend, okay, I'm fine, let's just push through and, fake it till you make it. But last week was the first time that I decided I'm going to just address this like head on and tell people, you see my videos, and the most important thing I wanted people to take away last week was, most of the times when you see me on the camera, I am not comfortable, but I continue to post. And I think a lot of people feel that they need to be comfortable. But one of the quotes that I really like is imperfect action over perfect inaction. And I would so often in the past just, defer and delay and put off because I felt, oh, it's not perfect. I'm not totally ready. But, what you'll find is in those moments when you're not totally ready, you are the most authentic because you're showing your hand a little bit. Everybody feels anxiety. Everybody can relate. But, you, in order to be able to stand up there and talk that way, I had so many people come up to me after and say, oh my God, you couldn't give me enough money in the world to be up there in front of a bunch of people. And the conversation kind of transformed into something that actually really helped me, and I think helped other people. It still in a real estate context, but now we're talking about a human issue that we all struggle with sometimes, and it just makes you more relatable. So very long-winded way of saying, yes, you should absolutely incorporate aspects of yourself. And you shouldn't be mechanical. You shouldn't be perfect, because humans are often imperfect, and that's what makes them so relatable. And I get very good feedback when I post things that I think are unfinished or imperfect, in my opinion. People say, that really resonated with me.
Last week when you were in person, that's a great example. It wasn't on the camera, but it was, similar with the nerves. Shaina and I took the elevator to the meeting. We had literally just met in that elevator. I think one of the first things she said to me was, "I'm so nervous." You're like, couldn't ask me to speak, and I'm like, "Hi, I'm Madison."
Yeah.
I was like, "You're gonna kill it."
I think that's great too, because when you think about the number of followers and views that you have, I'm sure a lot of those people that are watching are going, I could never do that. But to hear you say, and have you ever said that on camera? Have you ever said that on TikTok or anything like that?
No, never. And, what actually relieved me the most was just confronting it and being like, sometimes I get nervous and sometimes, my face gets red if I'm uncomfortable or I feel like I'm not totally prepared for this or it's not going to be perfect. But, talking about it, it was like a little bit of a weight was lifted off my shoulders because I already confessed, this is something that happens to me. And yet I will post anyway. And some days the videos will be better than others, but ultimately all of them can, paint this picture of who I am. And, some people love it, some people leave it, but ultimately the feedback I get is really positive and really warm and supportive. So I'm gonna do more of that moving forward.
I think it's a good segue. You're mentioning quotes to our something borrowed section. So that's, are there other things that motivate you that you feed from other than scrolling through TikTok and looking for ideas? Is there something that, or any kind of educational resources that you've used or anything you've gone back to over and over again for ideas and energies?
Or any other content creators that you like to watch or follow that you could turn people on to?
Sure. Well, okay, in terms of content creators, I will, think about that and provide them to you, and maybe you can put them in some notes later on, because off the top of my head, you go on social for a second and you're just inundated. And some of the people, I don't know their names off the top of my head, but I know their faces, and they come up a lot. And okay, here's somebody, Elizabeth Segmen. She's a realtor. Her handle, I think, is eSegmen. And she's out in California. I remember this because the city, I think, is called Corona, and that really stood out in the last couple of years.
I know where Corona is.
Yeah. And she posts so consistently. She is always such a positive, enthusiastic presence. And she also participates in the trends on Instagram. And she's somebody who, I follow her now, but in the beginning, she was just somebody who kept popping up. And I was like, yeah, it was clear she was a realtor, but I also liked her presence and the way that she would, incorporate, who she is as a person, but then also what she can do for you. And it's really fun. And I would recommend going and checking out her page, if you're a realtor or if you're just somebody who wants to get a handle on, social media, because I think she does it in a really engaging way. So that is someone you can look into for, content creating. Something I really held on to when I first heard it, when I first affiliated with Coldwell Banker, one of my colleagues, told me you always want to provide value. Always provide value, whether you're having a conversation in person or you are posting a video on social media, you want to tell them what you can do for them. And that doesn't just mean I can help, I can show you any home in Pennsylvania. It means that, you can give them a tip, like a home hack, like having trouble, keeping your windows clean. Like in the winter, you want to make sure that you properly do this and that. And, little hacks, like I mentioned earlier, where, you don't have the money right now to install LED, like, trim lighting. Well, you can get these from Amazon and they just stick underneath your kitchen island and they will create the same effect for a fraction of the cost. That's value. At this point, they should know, okay, this person's a realtor. They do something with homes. But take it to the next level and tell them how they can, how you can help them right now from the comfort of their home.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's awesome. I love that.
I have a realtor that lives in my neighborhood. She's not a Coldwell Banker, but she comes up because she's in a neighborhood group that I'm in. And this over the winter, she started talking to people about having their houses washed in the spring. And would you like to do that? And she organized the whole thing. And that's providing value, like you said. And If
Yep.
I wasn't with Coldwell Banker, then I would be thinking about, and I was going to, be looking for an agent because she connected, because she's providing value. That's what I'm looking for, not someone who's just telling me all the ways that they're great and they're better than everybody else, but let me actually help you. I feel like she would be somebody that would be helpful to me when I sell my
And
house.
social is a great vehicle for that. Social is
Yes.
it's free, it's widely distributed. You can share your thoughts and your offerings, and
Yeah.
lots of people see it. And you don't have to pay for a
Exactly.
mailing to the whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get
You
in
know-
front of most people with social. It is the best advertising mechanism out there.
Yeah, just to contrast that with someone else in my neighborhood who we used to do it. We still do a neighborhood yard sale. Like, I live in a development, and she would sponsor that every year by putting advertisements out and signs out and things like that. And I don't know that she ever really connected with people on that, because it was just people maybe saw her name or whatever. But I
Yeah.
thought that actually providing, I mean, it's helpful, but I actually think that providing home services and even just like answering questions that people have out there in a way that's not, and don't forget, I can sell your house. It's just, here's how you can fix your smoke detector is one this week,
Exactly.
things like that. But they see
Yeah.
someone ask a question, they jump in and they answer.
Yeah,
Just
like
giving value.
start helping them now and show that you are valuable now, and then
Mhm.
later, it'll come back to you when you're not even expecting it.
Yeah. And it feels good, doesn't it? Just to help people and know that you're in the business of helping people.
Exactly. It feels great. And also sometimes you eat out at a new restaurant and it's really, really, really good. And you want to share that with people. And so sometimes I'll post, you got to check out this place in Old City. It's new and I don't see many people in there often, and word needs to get out because the food is really fantastic. So that's also valuable, because then people have come to me and said, oh, I didn't know where to eat, so I tried that new place and it was amazing. So thanks.
Super simple too.
Right.
I feel like sometimes people can kind of get confused or not really understand the line between, the value of saying, oh, I can sell your home in a week, as opposed to the value, which is more really of a tangible value of being able to, provide those links to the Amazon lives that you just described, or being able to tell someone some hole in the wall place to go in Old City that they haven't known. They lived there for years. And I think that kind of tangible value stays with someone more than just reading, oh, I'm the best realtor in town. And
That's how many homes I sold.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And selling a home can be incredibly emotional, and buying a home can be incredibly stressful. And, that goes back to vulnerability. And when you, humanize yourself and have a real conversation outside of, here were my closed deals in 2021, and here's, how quickly they sold. You want to connect as a human, because you take on so many different roles in the process of buying a home. It really has less to do with actually closing the deal than all of the little steps, from start to finish. And sometimes they start before the start point, because you have to help them clear things out. And it is really emotional when people have to leave their home that they've been in their whole life and raised their children in. So you have to connect with them on a real level. Otherwise, you might get the deal done, but it just, nothing feels better than really knowing that you made a difference in that person's life. And selling them the home is the least of it. It's more about the connection that you make with them during the process. That's what's really rewarding.
Awesome.
Wow, it's a lot to process. Thank you. So something blue. We're wrapping up here. So what are your thoughts on, you've already mentioned some good memories of people in your office and advice you've gotten from people in the office. So anything you want to leave us with as far as Coldwell Banker?
Sure. Well, first of all, my career did not begin until I affiliated with Coldwell Banker. My head wasn't in the game. I didn't, really believe, okay, real estate is for me. Then I came on to Coldwell Banker, and I am a people person. And when I say that, I mean, I am committed to places and things because of the people that are there. And I mean it when I say that Coldwell Banker, I've met people from all different branch offices, and they're all amazing. I am most familiar with those in Old City. They are the most genuinely helpful. Everybody at Coldwell Banker truly wants to help you succeed in your business and your professional life. And when they say, we're a team here, like as so many brokerages say, we're a team, we're a family. I never knew what that meant until I joined Coldwell. I am so like in love with the people that work at Coldwell Banker. They are some of the nicest people that I aspire to, follow their paths professionally, but also on a personal level. And my mentor, Kelly Patrizio, she is like a role model for me. I see the way that she so genuinely helps others, and you can tell that she really, that's for her personally. She enjoys giving value to others. And that quote, you always want to give value to others. What's the value add? I see it carried out by her every day. I was her mentor. We still talk almost every day. And the mentor program, they help you through the first 3 transactions, and then, you're flying on your own. Well, we're like a year and a half later, and I go to her for everything and anything. It's like the people, and it's everybody there is so helpful. And that is what really made me feel, I love these people. I want to do what they do. I'm so into real estate. And it's actually made me a bit of a better person in my personal life as well, because my tolerance used to be really low, and I used to get frustrated very easily. And now, everybody has a story, and I kind of approach things with that. Like, everybody has something that they can teach you, and everybody's an expert in something that you're not. And, just like I can add value for you, they can totally blow my mind with something else. You just have to talk and figure out what that something is. And then it's such a beautiful thing. So I can't speak highly enough to Coldwell. And, this might seem like sponsored or something because we're in the context of like a Coldwell Banker podcast, but I'm here for a reason. And, when other brokerages come to me and ask me to affiliate with them, I try to think I'm a nice person, so I don't just hang up. I see them through the end of the call.
It's okay to just hang up. I'll just say it. Just kidding. Just kidding.
It is the easiest no I will ever give, because I'm so happy here. And Jeff, you mentioned some of the best views in Philadelphia. They really are at our office in Old City. So
Yeah.
So the chance of me going anywhere else for that reason alone is a hard pass.
Hard pass. Well, thank you, Shaina. This has been a wonderful time and a lot of nuggets. I'm going to process this for a while. So, how can people find you online and obviously on social media? You got to tell us how we can find you.
So first, thank you guys so much for having me. This was really fun. And you're all amazing. My handles on TikTok and Instagram, they're the same. It's at Shaina, Shaina, Levin, Levin. And something borrowed, I took that from the Josh Altman, who is a god in real estate. That's like the structure of his handle as well.
Awesome.
Very good.
Yeah. Anyone who's listening, definitely go and check out her TikToks and Instagram for any inspiration or just entertainment, because they're awesome. And I like watching them.
I can't wait to do it.
Definitely check them out.
Thank you so much, Madison.
You're welcome.
Well, thanks for sharing yourself with us. I feel like I got to know you better during the podcast, and I can't wait to check out your social media, and I hope that our listeners enjoyed as much as we have.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
Right. Great. Thank you.
Good
Thanks
one.
for joining us in the Blue Zone.